I've been asked to make a video on how I made the paper with flowers and petals inside it, and this is the video I've made. You can see here what it looks like when it's finished, and it's quite durable. In this particular one I put quite a big flower head. I don't think I would do that again because it's bulked up, and as it starts to die down it kind of loosens the paper around it. I think I would stick more to the flat petals and leaves. And there's another one I've made. Okay, when you hold them up to the light you see through them very clearly. Right, the equipment you're going to need are 2 pieces of lace, your flowers, foliage, whatever colours you want, a sponge. This is the paste I used, and you can, I've heard, use wallpaper paste, but the difference with this one is it has an antifungal property in it which preserves the flowers and stops anything going mouldy. And you put 3 tablespoons of it to water, and this is the way it comes out in this paste here. It's quite watery, as you can see. The other thing I used was the silk tops, and those I've got online, and you can see what they look like there, and I'll show you how we take them apart in a minute. And the last but not least you need is a hairdryer. Okay, so we'll get started. Okay, the first thing you need is 1 piece of lace laid down on your table. Okay, and then I take out the silk tops, and you can see what it looks like. Okay, and what you're trying to get is the effect for all the world like a spider's web. They say about 1 ounce of this should make about an A4 page. So what I do is I take it out like that, and you'll find it just goes everywhere because it's so delicate. And just open it out so you don't have any thick bits like that. So you're just opening it out very gently. Okay, don't have gaps in it. You don't want holes because that'll make holes in your paper. So I'm going to lay that piece there. Okay, I'll do the same again. Just again, spread it out and make sure you overlap. That's important. Otherwise you will, when it dries, it'll spread, so, and you'll have holes in your page. So just slightly overlap. And you just continue on all the way along like that, overlapping to the size you require. I'm going to kind of do about that size. So to the size you require, you just keep going across, opening out like that. Okay, and just keep across, and it's very wisp. So just be very careful you don't pull it or drag it out off your page again. Now, and you just keep going, and I'll come back to you when I've completed my size. So we've done the size that we're going to do here. Now just remember that no matter what size you make it, you can cut it down. The only thing is, I personally like the uneven edge around. I think it gives a very natural look compared to if you were cutting it. So when you cut it, you'll have a very straight edge. So this is the size I'm going to work on. I've just laid it out, wisped it, make sure there's no kind of gaps in between. If there is, you can rectify it later. I'll show you how, but I think that's generally okay. There's no major holes or gaps in it. And now all I simply do is I get the foliage, and I'm just going to cut little bits off and lay it where I want. And these are just a few bluebells I picked yesterday. And just scatter them around. Now, I'll come back to that. I'll just keep scattering them around. The other thing I'm going to put on is an odd leaf, depending on what size, what way you want it. Okay, might be too big. A smaller one here. Okay, the other thing I have is this is just a bit of dyed cotton, just a little bit of dyed. And you could try and pick what colour might go well with it. That could be very vibrant. And just take tufts of it and just scatter it around where you want. And you will find that the silk is trying to come off in your hands all the time. You can see when you go to lift, it comes off. So you pick what colour you suit and you just scatter around and you do the same flowers. The other thing you can put on is pieces of thread. And when I first was going to do this, I wasn't sure laying it over, but actually when I see the paper, it gives a nice texture. I don't know if we can see it in this one. Let me see if I can see. Like here, coming in over the leaf, and when you look down, it gives a nice 3D dimension to it. Oops. And the other thing I'm going to do is I have a bit of lace. So I'm just going to cut little pieces of the lace. Whatever size I want, maybe a little bit bigger than that. And just place them around. Different types on this, so thicker lace and thin lace. And just place it around. And you'll see that later. It just gives another texture. Right, so as you can see, I've put some foliage down, some flowers, and then, as I said, the coloured kind of wool or whatever you want. I have bits of lace here, little buttercups, whatever. Okay, I'm just taking the bits we have around. And then, so it's like a sandwich. I've put my silk, I've put my foliage, and now I'm going to put another layer of the silk. So again, the same principle we did before. Just take your silk, spread it out. We don't want it too thick. Okay, and on top. And we will go over all of this all the way again, so this will be covered. So it's like a sandwich, as said, as if this is the bottom piece of bread, the filling, and then on top of bread on top. So I'll be putting the silk over the whole lot again, continuing in that fashion of just taking a piece, spreading it out, and overlapping. Okay. Right, so now as you can see, I have the top layer put over all the foliage. And again, make sure there's no gaps, because when you do, you get holes. Okay, so I then get my second piece of net and I place it over. And the idea of this is holding it in place for me. Otherwise, when I start putting the paste on it, it would just come off in my hands in layers. Okay, now I have my paste already made up here. Okay, and as I said, people do use wallpaper paste. This one just has an antifungal property in it. Okay, I get my sponge. Right, and I just pour the paste on like that. Okay, and what's basically going to happen is you're not going to see the white of the silk in a little bit, because the silk is going to soak up the paste. And I move it out slowly to the edge with my sponge. Okay, just working my way into it. Okay. It will soak in, don't worry, it doesn't go everywhere. And I just keep doing that And what I also do as I'm going along is I just press down just to make sure it's getting into the silk. Okay, very gently, and you can see that's why the net is there, because it's stopping it pulling up with the sponge, otherwise it would just keep pulling apart on you. So the net, and also very important to make sure you go to the edge, that it's not dry. So keep pouring on the paste, keep pushing in, and before I do anything else I'll just keep doing this myself, and I'll come back to you when it's ready for the next stage and I'll show you what it'll look like.